And welcome to Oceanside Arts Live, where we celebrate local artists and their arts and showcase their works. Today, I want to introduce to you Andrea Susan Glass, who is the CEO of WritersWay and a leader in professional and personal development book coaching, ghostwriting, and copy editing of books and ebooks. Hello, Andrea, and welcome to Oceanside Arts Live.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Why don't you tell us and our audience a little bit about yourself, your background?
Okay, sure. I've dreamed of being a writer my whole life, and I didn't pursue that path because it just didn't seem like the right path for me at the time to make a living. So I've always done writing in the background. But about 30 years ago, I said I'm going to write a couple of books and see if I can get them published. And self-publishing wasn't big at the time. So I had an agent, but I didn't get published. And I had this brilliant idea that if I wrote for other people, I would get paid at least, but I'd still be writing. Mm-hmm. So I started ghostwriting, and I was very fortunate. My very first ghostwriting job, I won the San Diego Book Awards for the best how-to book in 2001. So I put my own writing on the back burner, and I've been doing ghostwriting and copy editing and also book coaching for about 20 years now with WritersWay. And I work primarily with individuals and small business owners who have an area of expertise. And I do primarily nonfiction. And they want to share their expertise with more people than they can with just one-on-one. If they're a coach or if they're a healthcare provider, they can only work with one person at a time. But with a book, they can reach thousands, maybe millions of people. So that gives me great joy in assisting individuals in sharing their expertise, whether I write their book or assist them with writing or do the copy editing and lead them on to publishing. It's just almost like we're birthing a baby every time somebody creates something and they're able to put it out in the world.
Wonderful.
So that's what I've been doing for about the last 20 years. Oh, additionally, I have 3 classes I teach at the University of California Extension, UCSD Extension. I've been doing that for about 12 years now. And I enjoy that because I have my credentials as a teacher, but I never wound up in the school system. And as an extension teacher, I can teach online. Even before everybody was working at home, I was teaching from home. And I interact with my students through the program that the University of California uses. So that's been very rewarding for me as well.
I can imagine. So tell us a little bit about WritersWay. What is it? What do they do?
Well, WritersWay, as I've described, is my own business where I find people who want to write a book and need help either from the very beginning where they just have an idea, at which point they might use me as a book coach where I can provide accountability. That might mean a weekly phone call or a Zoom call or emails. And I guide them through the whole process of writing their book so that they get off to the right start. Some people say, I want to write a book, but I don't even know how to get started. I have no idea what it means to write a book. Now, other people might come to me with a book they've written, but they know that it needs more. It needs ghostwriter or copy editor. I also have a few copy editors that I work with who work under me, and I provide them with projects as well. And I do have a book designer that I use. I have a web developer that I use. So I have different people in my community that I can service my clients with. And I have to say, I've probably edited 200-300 books over the last 20 years.
That keeps you busy, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. I would say I do more ghostwriting, more copy editing than ghostwriting. Because generally when people come to me with a ghostwriting project, they usually don't want me to write the whole book, but they want me to either interview them and record our sessions, or they might dictate the book themselves. There's a lot of software nowadays that they can do that with. And then I help put it together. I piece it together. So I don't write too many books just from scratch, but I help them put the book together. And then I get probably at least 50% or more of the books already finished. And then I have to either do a copy edit, which is cleaning up all the punctuation, grammar,
Yes.
spelling, or a developmental edit, which means pulling the whole thing together in a more structured fashion so that it makes sense for the reader.
So there are any number of people who could contact you for any kind of a writing problem, and you would have either you or you would have the sources to help them solve this problem and aim towards getting it published.
Absolutely. And again, I do specialize in nonfiction, but there are so many genres of nonfiction. There's memoir, there's how-to, there's self-help, spirituality, holistic health, animals, small business, gardening, cooking. I've worked in all of those different areas. And I really like nonfiction because I think if you specialize in one area, you become better at it than if I was doing fiction or nonfiction. I have edited some fiction books, but I do specialize in working in nonfiction because I think everyone wants to go to a specialist. We go to people in different medical fields who are specialists, and we have more faith in someone who specializes in something because they have a lot of experience in that area.
Good, good. So tell us about the book that you have published yourself.
Well, it took me 30 years. Like I said, I started about 1990 saying I want to write a book, and self-publishing wasn't very popular then. Mm-hmm. And I didn't get very far with agents and publishers. So I had been thinking about writing a book, but I spent most of my time writing and editing for other people and teaching. But about a year ago, I took a class on how to develop online courses because I figured since I already teach for UCSD, why not develop some of my own courses? Mm-hmm. And that would be a great way to use my writing and teaching skills to the university. Mm-hmm. So my teacher said, if you're going to sell courses based about writing, you need to have more credentials and you should write a book. And that lit a fire under me. So I spent months deciding what to write about because there are many, many, many books out there on how to write a book. So I came up with what I interviewed people and I ran surveys, and I came up with what I thought were the stumbling blocks for most new authors. And so I came up with my book called Your Fabulous First Book, How to Write with Clarity, Confidence, and Connection.
All right.
I find that a lot of new authors are not clear about why they're writing the book and who they're writing it for and what they want to deliver to the reader. So I start with clarity. Confidence is a big issue because if you're writing your first book, you're not sure if you're a good enough writer. You're not sure if you're going to be able to sell the book. So I help people build confidence, and I show them how to overcome their fears and their excuses and their distractions, because there will be many. Mm. And then the connection is, how do you connect with the reader in the book? When you read a book, do you feel connected to that author? Because if you don't, sometimes you won't go through with the book because you think, I don't know, this author doesn't care about me. So I show new authors how to make the connection in the book with the reader and also how to connect with them in the marketplace. So I found that focusing on clarity, confidence, and connection was a great setup for first-time authors. And that's how I came to create the focus of my book, Your Fabulous First Book.
Great. So do you have maybe 2 or 3 top tips for a beginning writer, or maybe somebody who has the book, but they haven't been able to get it published?
Well, as I said earlier, you need a team. Mm-hmm. You can't do this by yourself because there are going to be areas that you're not knowledgeable about or you're not skilled about. So the first thing I would suggest is to have a team, whether it's just a friend or another author who might be an accountability partner. I had one of my friends / clients, and she emailed me every day. She was writing her book and I was writing my book. I did 300 words today. Right. I did 1,000 words today. And we would email each other back and forth how many words we wrote that day. And it kept us each accountable. And I have a few other accountability partners as well. And
I like that one, though. That one's great.
Yeah, for me, that kept me on track. So you want to build a team of people and include in that accountability partners and maybe a book coach your copy editing. You want to think about these things ahead. The other thing another great tip is to think ahead about what's going to stop you. Because I have had clients come to me, pay me a nice deposit, and then disappear.
Oh.
And the reason they disappear is one of what I call the codes, CODE, challenges, obstacles, distractions, and excuses. And most of those are based on fear. I'm afraid I'm not a good enough writer. I'm afraid I won't be able to sell my book. I'm afraid there are other books like mine. So we come up with those challenges and obstacles, and I call them internal obstacles and external obstacles. An external distraction, for example, would be the laundry needs to get done, or my neighbor comes over and wants to have a cup of coffee, or the bell is ringing and I've got a new email. So we have to watch out in advance what our challenges, obstacles, distractions, and excuses might be, and plan for how we're going to handle them. If we know in advance what we're like and what we tend to do when we have a project, then we can set ourselves up for greater success.
Good. Oh, those are wonderful. Thank you so much. Any final words for our audience?
Well, one thing I want to say is that if you want to be successful with a book, books don't necessarily make a lot of money. You have to be meticulous in your marketing. And I marketed my book for 1 week when it first came out, but I also have a workbook planned. I'm going to have your Fabulous First Book workbook so that people can take the ideas in this book and apply them. And they're going to fill in the forms, and they're going to create their own personal journey for the book. And then after that, I have a course. So you tend to want to build a product line around your book. And my next book that will come out this year, hopefully, is about how do you build a business around your book. Because once you write a book, you're in business with a product. You may have been a service provider all your life, but now you have a product. And so you're in business and you're selling a product. Mm-hmm. So you have to put on that business hat, and you have to think about what is in my business. I might have some services. I have a book. Maybe I'll have a workbook. Maybe I have a class. Maybe I have coaching programs. So you need to kind of think about the big picture, because it's more than usually just a book. And now, again, I'm talking mostly to nonfiction authors. Fiction's a little different, but even with fiction, you might want to have a trilogy, or you might want to make sure that you have the second book planned, because once you build a reader base, they're going to stay with you for each subsequent item that you produce, whether it's a workbook, a course, or another book. So that would be my final tip, is just think about the big picture.
Oh, well, thank you. I can't even keep a journal. I have started so many times, but I think I'm going to take a couple of your notes and see if I can manage to get a journal for 2021 all the way through.
Good for you. I appreciate that.
So thank you so much, and thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again on our next Oceanside Arts Live.